Whenever I watch music producers on YouTube, one of the biggest challenges always seems to be breaking out of a loop. You create a drum groove that you like, you add a bass line and then some sort of melody, and it sounds great, but it gets boring fast. For a full track, you need variation, you need variety, you need tension and release, and that isn't easy. So whenever I play around with a new piece of gear, what I really want to know is how easy is it to create more than just a loop? Something with a beginning, a middle, and an end. A musical story, if you will. Well, in my last video, we created a drum groove and a bass line and a melody. We have a loop. So we have all the parts to create a full track. But can you do that on the ground control? How easy is it to move through the song like you can with Ableton's clip launching, for example? Can you create drops and breaks? How can you add FX and modulation to move the track along? What else do you need? Because I don't think this little box can do it all. Or can it? Shall we find out? So in my previous video, we created a melodic techno loop, and it sounds like this. As far as it goes, it sounds okay, but that'll get pretty boring pretty quickly. In fact, you've probably got bored of it already. So in this video, I wondered whether we could take that loop and actually create a track, like a sort of 3-minute track with an intro, a build, a drop, and an outro. We're going to try and do that in this video. So the first thing to do is to copy our initial pattern across a number of patterns so we can take things out and actually create some sections to our track. So to do that, if you see here, we're currently A. These are the 4 tracks and they're all on pattern A at the moment. And I want to copy exactly what we've got across the first 7 or 8 patterns just to give us enough material to work with. So to do that, you press the start button and then you press the record button once and it says pattern save. We're on the drum track and pattern A is flashing, which is the one we're copying. So if we press B, it just disappears. But what that means is, I believe we now have the drum track and only the drum track because that's the only one we've copied on pattern B. So if I press the start button to go into what they call live mode, it looks like there's something on pattern B because all of these ones here are blank. So if I select pattern B, this changes to B. And if I now press play, I've just realized it's now going to play pattern A on all the other tracks, which is exactly what we've got. So it's not going to sound any different. So what I'm going to do is not press play right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link all of the tracks together. So I want pattern A to play on the drum track and on track 1 and 2 and 3. And then if I move on to pattern B, I'm going to decide what's in and out of that particular pattern. But for me, I much prefer having them all linked. And the way to do that is to hold these 2 arrow buttons together for a period of time and they both become lit. So now if I go into the live pattern mode, if I press A, they will all be on A. And if I press B, they will all be on B. And now because I've copied the drum track onto B, which admittedly has some of our bass stabs and rhythms as well, we should have that, but we should have none of the melodic tracks 1, 2, or 3 over here. So let's see if I've got this right. Thankfully I have. Okay. Stage 1. Sorted. So now I'm going to do the same thing and copy that drum track across a few of these other ones. So live, record, C, live, record, D, live, record, E, let's keep going, F, G, that's probably enough. And I'm going to do the same for tracks 1, 2, and 3, copy them across all of these. Live, record, live, record, live, record, live, record, live, record. Live record B, live record, okay, again. All it's going to be possible is going to do this. I think it's track 2 and A again. And do the same track 3. Okay, so I've now got the same pattern across A to G. Now, I don't know why you can't copy all of the tracks. You can only seem to do it one at a time, which confused me. I've looked through the manual. I can't seem to see it. If I've got that wrong, please let me know down in the comments. So I now have a number of different patterns across these keys, A to G. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create sections of a song, and then the ground control lets you chain those sections together. By doing so, we should be able to build up a track that lasts, I don't know, a few minutes, 3 minutes, and it should have different sections that we program. So let's get into that. And on pattern A, this is going to be the intro and the outro. So I don't want any of the melodic tracks. What I want to do is I want to delete. So we've got to make sure that we're on pattern A, and I want to delete all these tracks. And by doing so, you hold the star button and then you press that, and it says clear. If you press it again, it will revert it to 16 steps. Do the same with the second one and the same with the third one. So now on pattern A, it should just be the drum and the drums and the bass. And I still think even that is too busy for an intro. So if we mute a couple, so I think that would be a good intro. So these 4 tracks are currently muted, so I'm going to delete those 4 tracks. So I'm going to do the same again, press each one twice. Although I guess I don't really need to press them twice. And then I'm going to unmute them. And so pattern A should just be that intro. So the next section we need is a drop, and I guess we already have that because that is everything. So I'm going to say that B is our drop, A is our intro, B is our drop. C, now C is an interesting one. What I'm going to do on C is I'm going to create a build section. The way that I have done that is to cheat slightly, I guess. I have recorded a 16 bar build in Ableton and recorded it as a sample and put it on a drum track. So all I need to do is trigger it once and it will play that build, and then we can go back into the drop. So what I actually want is I want C to be completely clear of everything. And I don't know if there's an easy way to clear everything, but if we go on to pattern C, at the moment it's our full track. So if I just go through all of this and delete everything, yes, let's delete everything. I'll press everything twice. We'll get it all back to on the drum track, which we are on. We have our 16 bar single hit on this trigger here. And I want to make sure that it is 16 bars. So to do that, I need to change the drum track timing on pattern C to be quarter notes. And I need to change it to 64 steps. If we now go into record mode and select our track 8, I wanted to do that without pressing it before, because if I do that, then it'll just play. It's a one shot that's 16 bars long. And if we just put it on track 1 like that, that should be it. So pattern C is a 16 bar riser. So we can go from pattern C straight into the drop, and that should effectively be like a build and a drop. So if I press pattern C and then switch to pattern B, because pattern B will play once pattern C is over, it should play the 16 bar build and then immediately go into the drop, and we can hear how that sounds. Okay, so I've now programmed our 16 bar break on pattern C. It is 64 steps long. So if we press play on pattern C and then go to pattern B, it should play our one shot, which is the 16 bar riser. It should go straight into our drop at the end of that, which is on pattern B, and we'll see what that sounds like. Okay, so I've now programmed our 16 bar break on pattern C. It is 64 steps long. So if we press play on pattern C and then go to pattern B, it should play our one shot, which is the 16 bar riser. It should go straight into our drop at the end of that, which is on pattern B, and we'll see what that sounds like. So if I press pattern C and then swap to pattern B by pressing the left hand arrow, we should have the build then going straight into the drop. So let's see whether that works. Let's keep moving on. So we've got A, B, and C. Pattern D, let's go to pattern D. So pattern D, I think, needs to be like our intro, but plus. So our intro probably with all the drums, but with all the bass as well. Certainly we need to delete, I think, the 3 melodic tracks. And what would it be like if we muted some of these? Yeah, I think that's good. Let's do that. So that means we need to delete that one there. Okay, so that is D. Well, we'll save that. Right, I think we need a snare roll. Any good track needs a snare roll. I think we might actually need a couple of tracks for this. So the E should be our kick and bass. Probably do want it to be stripped back slightly, so we will. And we want to delete the snare as well, I think so. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So that's what we've got on E at the moment. I think we want that on F as well. So let's save that. Let's go to pattern F, copy from E to F. Yeah. Okay, great. So E and F are now the same, and we can start programming in a snare. So on E, I want this to be 16th notes, which it is, and I want it to be 3 bars long. So for the first 2 bars, let's have it on every quarter note. Yeah, sorry, thinking out loud here. And on the 3rd bar, let's have it on every note. So it's building up. It is, after all, a snare roll. Yeah. Okay, so that should be that. Let's. Okay. And then on pattern F, go to pattern F. I want this sort of to be the last bar. So I want it to be 60, last bar of the snare roll. So we've got the same thing. I want this to be. I'm not sure this is going to work. I wanted this to be 30 seconds. Let's see how that'll affect the rest of the drum track. And I want it to be every 30 seconds for a bar, which I guess is 32 steps. So we've literally got all of them, and then all of them again. How does that sound like? Yeah, brilliant. Because I wanted it on 30 seconds, I have therefore got too many kick drums. So if we delete the kick, in fact, we delete everything else, so we just have the snare. Nice. Let's delete the last few and have a little pause before we go into another drop. So if we go to page 2 and we'll delete the last 2. Yeah. Then if we go from pattern E to pattern F, hopefully that'll sound decent. Okay, so we have a snare roll, we have some builds and drops. I think we might be there. I think that might be enough. Should we see if we can put it together? Okay, so I think we have all the sections we need. Now we just need to try and chain them together into a song. And I believe we do that by holding the track button and then pressing the patterns we need the number of times we need it. So if because we've got our patterns linked, if we do it with one of our tracks, it should do it with all of them. So if we hold down this button and we have our intro and it's 1 bar, so we want 4 bars of intro, we press it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we want B, which is 8 bars. We want that twice. Then we go B twice. I don't know whether this is going to work. Then we want our build, which is 16 bars, once. Then we want B twice again. And you see the chain is building in the image above. Then we want C, which is our sort of stripped down drum bass, Yes, drum and bass. That's 1 bar, so let's have 4 bars of that. Nice. Then we want our build again. We want 1 of those. Then let's go into our snare roll. So we'll have 1 E and then 1 F, and back into the drop for maybe 8 bars. Yes, once, and then maybe back to the intro, and we'll have 8 of those as an outro. Fine. Now I'm going to record that because I believe that is saved with the project. If I press play, we should have, I'm hoping, about 3 minutes of a track that sort of hangs together. Shall we see? So that didn't work. Okay, should we give this a go? Let's see if we can get a track going here. It may not be perfect, but let's have a go. Right, we will play pattern A. Okay, so definitely need a bit more practice on that. Some of the loops seem to cut out a bit early, some of them a little bit too much of a gap. Obviously struggle to change the snare roll in time, but not bad. Well, okay. It's a shame that there's not a better song mode, but I guess you can still plan the sections, then record them somewhere else. And it is relatively easy to perform. I guess I would need to practice that a bit more, maybe play with a few more mutes. Anyway, there we have it. Well, I think that was a partial success. To be honest, could definitely have performed it better. And I guess, more practice would have been better. And the more astute amongst you will have noticed that I didn't actually move through the patterns correctly. I used the arrow keys to go between them, which goes sort of A, B, C, D, E, F, goes sequentially, I guess, through the patterns. Whereas actually you can just use the keys on the bottom to choose which pattern you want. I mean, pressing the asterisk button on the ground control puts it in live mode after all. I mean, it's called that for a reason. So apologies. You can just select the keys and that moves you instantly to the right pattern. Anyway, ignoring my incompetence for a second. The point of this video was to answer the question, can we make a full track on the ground control? Is it easy to break out of a loop? And I think the answer is a qualified yes. We very quickly came up with some variations without much thought required. Now, the challenge for this machine, I think, and for all live electronic music, is to create a build-up, to create that sufficient tension and release so that when you go back to the drop, it's a genuine release and a genuine change. And I think that's really difficult to do live and to do on this. I sort of had a go creating this sort of 16-bar pre-recorded sample that I think was okay. Now, the other way of doing that would be to add like some effects, some delay and some reverb, wash it out, a high-pass filter. That's a sort of normal way of doing it. Now, for that, I'd have needed more effects and some sort of MIDI controller or full Eurorack case. Obviously didn't have that today, but I think that is obviously possible. Maybe we'll go back to a full case and see how easy it is to really play with this thing. Anyway, that's it for now. See you next time.